Well, thank you for joining me tonight. I'm really excited to be here. If you guys have not seen, today I hit 17 years in the Air Force. Yes, 17 years. And for me, that's huge because, again, just reflecting on life and my experiences, it's good to have made it this far. But what I want to share tonight are some lessons, some things that I think that I want to just share with you all on this journey of becoming a in the senior NCO realm, and kind of talk about this journey because as someone that is in the space of leadership and team development, I think it's important that we give back and we share to emerging leaders at all levels, to understand how they could become more effective, how they can grow. And I think that, my experiences, even in the military, can apply to anybody, regardless if you're in the civilian sector, regardless if you're a business leader. All those experiences are really, really going to help you, or help each one of us, regardless of where we at. It's really going to be beneficial to have that crosstalk and that dialogue, because everybody might be at different levels of leadership, but we can all learn from one another. So I'm really excited to be here tonight and just give back on this 17th year serving in the United States Air Force. Again, it's been an amazing experience. And when you hear the term senior NCO, I'm in the enlisted corps, so there's officers and enlisted. I'm on the enlisted side, and there's 9 ranks within that enlisted corps. And within those 9 ranks, they have different tiers: the first 3, the next 3, and so on. So I'm in the last 3 top ranks in the Air Force. Thank God for that. So we are senior NCO. We're at that senior level because we've seen so much, we've experienced so much, so our perspective is a lot different. But of course, in order for us to get to the senior NCO tier, we had to start off at this level at NCO and so on in order for us to get there. So I'm not going to throw too much military jargon to you tonight, because you might be like, what are all these acronyms? Because if you're in the military, you know about the acronyms, but my perspective is coming from being in those top 3 ranks, because the perspective is so different. And again, I don't know who's listening tonight, but there might be someone that is an emerging leader. Maybe you're brand new in the military, or maybe you're brand new in business. Maybe you're in a space where you want to become a leader, or maybe you're a leader now and you just need to self-assess and identify what areas you need to improve on. I want to talk to you guys about that. So I came fully dressed, and of course, I always like to, put that disclaimer out there. My views or my perceptions or what I talk about isn't specifically how the Air Force feels. So I want to make sure that that connection is clear. But essentially, the Air Force really embedded a lot of lessons and skills and principles within me that I just want to share with you. And I want to take you on this journey of how I got here. So I'm Aisha Thomas. I'm currently a master sergeant. I'm in a transition point where now I'm going to transition into a senior role. But right now, I'm speaking from the perspective of the experiences I've had within those 17 years serving the United States Air Force, and what I can help you as a leader understand as you progress in every rank, in the civilian side, in your business side, or whatever side of leadership, even personally. So let's first kick it off and talk about the journey. Let's talk about that journey, how I got to the point where I wanted to join the Air Force. Now, it's no long story. It's nothing profound. I got into the military because I wanted to get the benefits. One of the things I was exposed to early on, my father was a banker. Hey, Dad, love you. My father was a banker. And one of the first jobs that I had and I got exposed to was understanding the lingo of banking and getting an understanding of expenses and credit. And that really opened my eyes about the finances, because I was going to school. I was going to a community college, and I had to pay out of pocket. So I was working, going to school, and I realized at a point that I wanted to transition. And there were some times where I actually got student loans as well. But being in a household where you were raised on financial literacy, getting a loan, yes, there are benefits in getting a loan. There's benefits of credit. But I started to think about the big picture. That's one of my nicknames, right? Because I'm always thinking like long term. I started to think about the big picture and how, if I got all these student loans now, how that's going to look later. And of course, a lot of young people don't think about that. That's why it's so important that we expose and we teach our young people stuff early on. But I started to get an understanding of why I really needed to take time and really start thinking about things from another perspective, and start thinking about, okay, I started thinking, okay, when I get to this age and I graduate and I have this degree, I'm going to have all this debt that I have to pay. And I didn't want to do that. I did not want to be a person that had to pay a lot of debt. So what I decided to do, I was just like, you know what? I am not going to be that person that's in a ton of debt. I want to be financially free. So in the process of wanting to be financially free, I decided, you know what? I want to find another avenue to pay for school. So a friend of mine, her name is Janelle Childress. She was just like, listen, I've been researching the military, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to possibly pay for school. And I was like, perfect, that's great. I think that sounds good. Let's do that. Let's maybe look into these other branches of military and what opportunities are out there. So that's what I did. I essentially went to started to go to different military organizations to kind of ask. Okay, so I started off with the Coast Guard. I inquired about the Army, and then the Air Force seemed like the best option that was going to help me in regards to benefits, the benefits that's going to help me in paying for schooling. So that was my initial reason for joining. Well, when I joined, I didn't recognize I was entering, I always say, a leadership machine. I didn't realize I was entering into an organization where, yes, you're going to get the benefits. We're going to support you. We're going to give you a paycheck. We're going to give you all these good things, but there's a certain expectation we want from you. So you need to get accustomed to the culture. You have to get accustomed to the values. You have to be accustomed to the, expectations that we have. So there was a lot of things that I had to get accustomed to that I just wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking like, hey, now I can get my benefits. So that was one of the first shockers is when I shipped out on 11 November 2003. I enlisted in 30 September 2003, and my ship date to go to basic training was 11 November. So my birthday is on the 25th of November. So yes, I served my birthday. I was in basic training in boot camp. And I remember when that day came, I didn't tell anybody because listen, if you let the MCIs know it's your birthday, you might have to do, oh, it's your birthday, let's do some bonus push-ups. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do any bonus push-ups. So that was something that I just did not want to do at all. But anywho, I really wanted to make sure that as I was navigating that experience and that life, and I just didn't expect that when I joined the military I just didn't expect that was going to happen. I didn't expect that I was going to end up in a space where I would be, in a space where it turned into something where it was just a leadership machine. So in that experience, it really just taught me a lot of things. It just taught me a lot of things about how I need to be a lot. I had to start thinking from a different perspective. I had to grow differently. I had to consider, how I did things so differently. And that experience just really helped me in so many different ways become better. It allowed me to see things from a different perspective. And I think it's important that when we do enter spaces, that's why I had this one conversation before. When we do enter spaces, we want to make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons, but also have the understanding of the expectation of the role and the responsibilities that come with being in that space. So it's so important that we do that. It's so important that we start thinking about leadership from the lens of, okay, what is going to be the expectation of me? What's going to be required for me to do that? What is, what am I going to need to do? Do I have a team, and what are their expectations, or what's the makeup? So I know that, okay, I have single moms, so I know they move differently. I know that I have a single father, he moves differently. I know I have somebody. So it's just a variety of different things that we have to think about as leaders when we are, or think about before we enter into a leadership space. And a lot of us don't know that. So again, being in a space where I didn't know what to expect, and I joined this leadership machine, it was a shocker to me. However, it was the best decision ever that happened to me, because my first experience with leadership didn't go well. I got fired as an element leader, but then I got a second chance when I got to technical training, because you first go to boot camp. That's where you're getting accustomed to the military lifestyle, the mindset, the roles, the responsibilities, what the big picture of the Air Force is about. This is how we dress. This is how we march. This is physical fitness. You're getting accustomed to the culture. Now, once you graduate that and now you understand the company culture, the climate, I mean, this is similar to if you have a new employee orientation. You have people hop on, and you have some people who just jump right into the company. But just imagine if you created a space where people come and they understand the company culture. This is how the company functions. This is how we move. This is the culture of how we do things. This is how we communicate. And then they transition to their main office, and now they start working on the ins and outs of their specific roles and responsibility. That's why new employee orientations are so beneficial, because you are getting people accustomed and going through the experience of understanding the culture of the company before they enter into those roles and responsibilities. So that's what the Air Force did for me. And then I transitioned into technical training, and that's where whatever job you chose or you were eligible for, you go and you get the technical expertise on that role. And I remember going to that. I actually did it here in San Antonio because I retrained. So I spent a lot of my holidays in a training environment, but again, it was just a beneficial experience for me because it showed me leadership from another perspective. So when I did have that second time to be a leader, I learned so much. I grew so much. But again, throughout my experience when I got into the field, there's some things that I want to share with you guys tonight as to what really developed me and helped me get to the point of where I am today. Because again, I don't know if you're an emerging leader. I don't know if you're someone that just has identified that I still need some leadership development. I believe we all do. Shout out to again, we're in a lot of people in the military, we have different tiers of leadership development we have to go through before we put on the rank. But a lot of civilian organizations, a lot of companies, they don't have that as a part of their culture. So you won't, some people don't think about getting leadership development, but it's so important that even if you're a leader, a CEO, a business owner, an emerging leader, investing in coaching, investing in getting additional support, getting a mentor, getting that support is going to be beneficial because the needs of you are going to change as you progress to different tiers of leadership. So I want to give you that perspective tonight. So let's get into it. Enough of my talking. So the first rank that I joined in as an E3 because I had college credits. I didn't have to start from like the lowest rank. I started at an E3 level, which is an A1C in the Air Force. So what was a lesson that I learned as an E3? Well, that first lesson was leaders are also mentors. Leaders are also mentors. So when I got to my first duty station, I I was still young, I still had like party girl fun, and there were a lot of hiccups that I had during that time. I mean, I failed my first PT test while I was at that organization. I nearly got kicked out while I was at that organization. I was in the commander's office getting paperwork while I was in that organization. I was that person that people just didn't take seriously while I was in that organization. But when I self-assess and identify what it was at that time, the people that did resonate to me and really help me in those seasons to really maybe even have like a glimpse of hope or a glimpse of, okay, let me maybe shift my thinking, were people who decided to kind of mentor me. I worked at a male dominated organization, but there were some leaders that was just like, okay, Aisha, I need you to get it together. Aisha, I need you to, or they made me look at things from a different perspective. But my main leader that I was working with, they didn't have that aspect. It was kind of I showed up. Here are your roles and responsibilities. Here is what you do, and you could tell that the individual that I was working for at that time was used to working on their own. So when you have a team member come in, here's your role of responsibility. There was no engagement, there was no mentorship, there was no guidance. It was just like, here, go do this, and we'll check in when we need to go. If you have to go do some additional training, go do it. If you have to go to medical, go do it. But it was just strictly work focused. But I had a different expectation from going from a training environment to now the operational Air Force, where I'm actually within the organization and working. I was expecting something different. So there was a big transition that happened there that I wasn't prepared for, that no one really talked to me about. And because no one talked to me about it, I wasn't prepared mentally for it. And I was just kind of thrown in, and it was just like, whoa, what's going on here? And because there was a lack of engagement, communication, support, mentorship, it turned into me just like not really focusing on the role, and it turned into me wanted to just leave and just not really taking the job seriously. And again, I started to, fail and not show up on time. I just used to do all kinds of things that just was not beneficial for me. But what I really needed in that season was mentorship and guidance. And it's so important that as leaders that we have to realize that we are mentors as well. We have an opportunity. We are leading a team, and we have an opportunity to really transform and help people develop and grow. And in order for us to do that, we have to really build our mentorship skills. Again, when I say about going into leadership to me means a lot. And again, this was something I had to learn over time. When you decide to be a leader, you are saying that I'm going into a space where I know that I have to transform people, counsel people, communicate. And there's so many different things that we just don't take time to learn as emerging leaders. That's so important. But you are essentially in a space where you can mentor people and you can really help them and guide them, because maybe you've been through experiences and now you can give them a perspective and they can say, you know what, I understand what it feels like to transition from a training environment to now the operational Air Force. It's going to be different. It's going to be kind of hard. You're going to maybe run into supervisors that aren't as effective or they don't communicate well. This is how you navigate it. And just have that conversation with me. And that might have really helped me have a little bit of understanding of what to expect. We already know anytime people are going through a transition psychologically, that is a point where they're really sensitive, or they might have confidence issues, or they might have anxiety or stress. So we want to make sure as leaders, when there's a transition happening, hey, you have a new team member, or you have a team member that's about to leave, really connect with them and help them and guide them through that process, or give them some tools and strategies to help them navigate that season, or even just take time to say, okay, what can I do to mentor you in this process? So remember, leaders are mentors, and this was one of the big lessons I learned. Even though, again, during the season, I was focused on the wrong things. Just reflecting back, we have to know that as leaders, our roles are so much bigger than just roles and responsibilities and titles. We want to be able to mentor our teams, develop them, guide them in the right steps, in the right season and phases, to really help them as they're transitioning through your organization. So again, try to really develop your mentorship skills. And again, that might require you doing some research, getting some coaching, some guidance. What does it mean to be a mentor? And again, if you don't have all the tools necessary, point them in the right direction of a mentor, because there might be another leader out there that's more effective at it. And now at least you got them in the right hands of somebody that can understand them and really help them through that process. So that is a lesson I learned as an E3 in the Air Force, the first rank that I held. Now let's move on to the next, E4. E4 was the second rank that I attained while serving. That is considered a senior airman in the Air Force. And the lesson learned there was take control of your career. Take control of your career. Oh my goodness. I have that conversation with a lot of people now. So I serve in a special duty as a career advisor. And a lot of times some people have the assumption that when you go into an organization, that essentially they're going to help you navigate through your career. They're going to create a roadmap for you. Your supervisor is going to make sure that you get to where you need to be as you want to level up. You just have that. Some people have that assumption. And they do have a lot of great organizations that have that mapped out. I know as a military member, this is what I need to get to E4, to E5. They give you the things you need. They let you know what education level you need. If you need to go to some type of leadership academy, it's mapped out. You know exactly what you need. Even as you move within your career field, you start off as someone that is a 1 level. All right, I graduate, I have a 3 level. Now that I'm a 3 level, I need to get to my 5 and then my 7 and then a 9. Well, again, there's a process of that. We have something called the AFECD, and it breaks down, and they even have one for officers, but it breaks down what are the requirements you need in order for you to move within this training in this technical field. They have that mapped out for me, and I know how to move to different ranks. So that's mapped out for me. But a lot of organizations don't have that. It's not mapped out. So if you're an organization listening, a business, a CEO, you want to try to map something out for individuals. But essentially, I didn't have that map. Yes, I knew what resources and places to go. Well, actually, no. Let's go back. As an E4, I didn't know. I didn't know about these. I didn't know about the AFECD. I didn't know about all these other places I could go to identify what I needed to get to the next rank. I didn't. And it's so important that we have to recognize that sometimes we have to take control and ask the questions and ask, you know what do I need to do to become a better leader? What do I need to do to get to this next rank? Am I doing that? What areas do I need to get to work on, instead of having that expectations? And the hope for the leaders out there, if you're listening, please make sure that you are taking time to identify those, because we want to really start working on an employee development listing or a checklist. I have one that's free on my website you can download, but start creating a tool so you can help people navigate through that process. Because again, if you have emerging leaders, if you have young team members, people that are just new in the game, it's so good when you can have something available for them to help them navigate through this process. And a lot of companies don't have that. But essentially, you out there, whoever you are listening, make sure you take control of your career, your life, your mindset, because sometimes we have the expectation that people are going to do that for us. And I remember having that mindset as a senior airman. They're going to do everything for me. oh man, they're going to do this and that for me. And when it didn't happen, I blamed them. Essentially, essentially when I had that season where I was almost kicked out the military, when I had that season when I had to really reflect like, Aisha, you need to get it together or you're going to just mess up this career. I mean, you invested all this time into it. You went to basic training and now you're about to get kicked out because of this. I decided then I wanted to take control of my career. So I started to ask questions. I started to be like, what's that? And I started to inquire more because I didn't necessarily get all those tools handed to me. And because I started asking questions, I started to be exposed to more things. And now I became more aware and now I can navigate my career a lot differently. So essentially, if you do not have that, and if you don't have a leader that's helping you navigate your career or your life, or have a coach that helps you navigate that, please make sure that you take control. And again, it might be investing in a coach or connecting with a mentor outside of your organization, because sometimes we hope that is within the walls that we work in, but sometimes it's reaching on the outside and connecting with something that they can help you navigate that. So that was one of the lessons I learned. And once I took control of my career as an E4, guess what happened? Your homegirl got to E5. Amen. I got to E5 once I took control because I got exposed to information. I started to understand how to navigate my career. So, as an E5, I guess a staff sergeant in the Air Force, that is again, now I'm moving into the NCO tier, right? So, the NCO non-commissioned officer tier. So, now, a lot of E5 start to supervise. Yes, E5 start to supervise. So, I was a young 20-year-old, and you can start supervising and you start to get a lot more leadership responsibilities. But in this season, I learned that leadership is uncomfortable. Yes, it is. It's uncomfortable, but the uncomfortability is going to allow you to grow. The uncomfortability is going to make you a better person. Once you've reached the cap and you've gotten comfortable, oh, you ain't growing. And I had a big growing season between E5 and E6 where I started to learn the uncomfortability of having to communicate because I wasn't a great communicator. Yes, I served in leadership roles here and there. And, when you're maybe a E5 or below or E4 or below, you might, or within the military realm or Air Force realm, I don't want to say military altogether, depending on the organization you're at, the expectation of you really being a full blown leader and just taking charge of things and being that face, that leader there that's just rocking it out. It's not, and I won't say it's not a big expectation because again, you're still in a developmental phase. So yes, you're airman. People recognize, okay, you're in this pocket here that we're still developing and growing you. But now as an E5, you start going over the threshold, and now you've put in some years and some time within this military structure, and now you can supervise. Now you can start really being in that leadership role. Now you've had enough years in and time in, and now you can start stepping into those leadership roles. But again, that's the assumption. But leadership is uncomfortable. Between E5 and E6, I had to start supervising and managing my friends. That's hard, right? It's hard to manage and supervise your peers, your friends, people that you grew up with, or people you have been your peers within your time in an organization. It was uncomfortable having to communicate about things that were like, I'm sorry, I can't promote you, or I'm not recommending you for promotion because of X, Y, and Z, or I don't think you're doing really good in this area, or oh man, you didn't really do good with that client conversation that you had. Having those uncomfortable conversations wasn't something I was used to. So I was being stretched and pulled in areas that I needed to in order for me to be an effective leader. Because again, as you're moving up in the rank, and if you're trying to become this top tier leader, you have to recognize that there are lessons and experiences that you have to go through so you can start being more effective in communication and emotional intelligence and how you manage and how you transform people and transform your organization. And it's so uncomfortable to go through that because, especially if it's something you've never been through before. I had never had to lead a team of 10. I never had to lead a team of 20. I didn't have to lead people I was leading military members and civilian members. I mean, I had to lead people that were older than me. Here's this young buck coming in saying, ma'am, you're late today, or you've been late, for this whole week. Like it was just a different experience for me, but I needed that. And it's going to be uncomfortable There are going to be seasons where you're even going from, maybe you're at a pretty top tier now, and now you're transitioning to another, a higher tier. And there's going to be a level of uncomfortability. But there are things that you have to learn in order for you to be stretched, for you to grow, and for you to become that more effective leader. So uncomfortability means that I'm in a growing season. I'm in a season where I'm learning something new, but it's going to prepare you for that next level. It's going to prepare you for some things that you're going to face in the next season. So yes, you might be comfortable now, but as you're progressing as leadership, it's going to become uncomfortable, but recognize in those uncomfortable seasons, you're growing, and it's in preparation for you to be effective in the next role that you're going to be in. So leadership is uncomfortable, but you are growing. All right, so now we get to E6. E6 is the next rank after that. That is considered a technical sergeant. Okay, now you are a technical sergeant, you are a technical master, right? And in this season of being an E6, again, now I was really in leadership. I was, again, leading a pretty large team. I was a part of a lot of special projects. And by this time, I had started getting a little bit more comfortable with leading. I mean, I had some great mentors around that time that really helped me navigate that season, because again, I had to experience some things that made me just very anxious and fearful, but they really helped me in those seasons. So shout out to those chiefs out there that really helped me. Chief Smith out there. I mean, she this was an amazing woman back in March Air at March Air Reserve Base, and she really helped me in the season of becoming a more effective leader. And even though she's retired, I want to shout her out because she was instrumental in a lot of the doors that were open to me. And she's a woman, and she's an African American woman. So shout out to her for helping me in that season. So if you're out there, retired Chief Smith, all right, love you. So the next area, so what I learned as an E6 was lead for your team. Lead for your team. A lot of us lead for the wrong reasons, but now that you start leading a team, it's a whole different ball game. If you guys watched the marketer cipher earlier that I was just on, we pretty much talked about that. What you need in order for you to lead a team, what you need in order for you to be effective in that area, and leadership and leading a team. So when we're thinking about leading for our team, you want to think about it from a different perspective. You want to think about what are the needs of the team, because what I did in this season is I took all the lessons that I learned from basic training, the mindset that I thought was right, and I was leading one way. But what I found was I had a moment with my team where they told me I was ineffective. I tell a lot of leaders, one of the things you want to do is called host your own roast. And in hosting your own roast, what you will find out is what your team exactly needs from you. What are the issues? What are the pain points? What they're seeing from their perspective, because sometimes we're so close to it, we're not seeing what our team actually needs. And we sometimes need to ask them. So I had a reality check from my team. They told me that I was ineffective. And because I was ineffective, I mean, it was a wake up call for me, because I thought that I was leading. I was doing everything by the book, but I wasn't leading based off of what their needs are. I wasn't leading for my team. I was leading for myself. I was leading for the organization, which is important too. But if you have a team of people that's reporting to you, if you have a team of people that are supporting you, supporting your organization, they're looking to you, and they're practicing followership, but you want to make sure that you are an effective leader for them to follow you. I made a Twitter post that said that in order for people to follow you, it's a trust thing. But in order for them to trust you, you have to show results. And the kind of results you want to show are positive results. But so we were pulling results. We were a great team. We were rocking it out. However, the culture of that section wasn't effective. So I had to sit down, and I got the feedback about the things, the areas that I was lacking in. My lack of communication, I was communicating one way, I was leading one way, but I had to make sure that I was leading based off of the team needs. So if you do enter a space and you're starting to think about, okay, I'm going to take on leading a team on an organization, learn about the people there. Who are they? Are they moms? Are they fathers? Are they in school? And you might think it's not important, but it is, because it's important to them. Their life and their work probably revolves around that. Learn about those individuals and find out what is their communication style. Find out what motivates them. Really start to study the people you're around you, because if you can touch the heart, be that transformational leader, then they will go to bat for you. They will push for you. They're like, listen, Aisha or Sergeant so-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so cares for me so much. I want to make sure they look good. but you have to make sure you're leading for them. So take time and really start identifying. I ask a lot of business leaders, if you have a team, tell me 3 things you know about them, write it down. And if they can't tell me that, that's a problem, because we want to make sure that we have good team engagement, employee engagement, organizational engagement, because again, all those little things matter if you want to develop a team. So you need to make sure you're leading for your team. So when you're entering a new team environment, or even if you're in your team environment now, I hope that you're asking the right kind of questions. I hope you're developing them, catering to their needs, making sure communication is as well, because again, when it is time to discipline and be firm, hey, it's time to be disciplined and be firm, but they also know that you're there to support them, guide them. And even if you do have to be firm with them, they know essentially you're there to support them all together. So make sure that you're doing that, and make sure you're leading not solely for yourself, not solely for the organization, but making sure you're catering to the needs for your team. Okay, so now the lesson learned as an E7. I'm currently at E7, and again, I'm at a transition point where I'm about to enter into a new space. But what was a lesson that I learned in the past 4 years? The past 4 years serving in this rank, and yes, I've been in this rank for 4 years. And it's not about moving from space to space within a year or 2 years, because typically it's a 2-year requirement for you to be eligible to the next rank. But when you're in pockets or in seasons as a leader, sometimes you have to sit in it for a while. Sometimes there are lessons and experiences that you still need to go through in order for you to serve into the next rank or the next level of leadership you want to go to. And a lot of us out there, we want to move so fast into the next realm of leadership or the next realm of business. But sometimes we have to sit in it for a little bit. Sometimes we have to take time and really sit in that thing so we can continue to learn and develop. So what did I learn as AE7? I learned that lead considering the big picture. That was a big lesson for me, because now that you're going into maybe a senior NC or a senior master sergeant realm or a chief master sergeant realm, the E8s and the E9s, or even as an E7, you have to start looking at things, how it affects the big picture. Because now you're making decisions that are affecting the organization. Now you're in rooms to speak about things that can affect an entire division, organization. It's really affecting change in a bigger way. So you have to have that mindset that when I make this decision, who is it affecting? I do one of these assessments with a lot of my clients, and we identify their order of thought. And I made a post about it. So when people think or they're making decisions, you think typically in 3 ways. You think from the perspective of empathy about the people. Then is the perspective of the practicality, the practical steps that you need to take in order for you to fulfill that goal. And then the third step is, the third step is thinking from the big picture perspective. How is this going to impact the bigger vision and the bigger mission? However, when a lot of people take these assessments, you'll see that they have dips in different areas. So you might have somebody that thinks about the big picture, but they don't consider the people, and they don't consider the steps it's going to take. You have some people who think about the people, but they're not thinking about the big picture or the practical steps, or it might be a combination of all 3. But that's assessment is so important for leaders, because we want to identify what your order of thought is, because you're missing a key component in your decision making that could affect the big picture, because essentially it's about the big picture, the bigger goal. And this is something that I had to learn in this season, that when I say I want to change this process, when I say I want to change this thing that we're doing, how is it going to affect the people? Did I even get the feedback from the people? Did I get their input, their insight? Because they're the ones supporting me. They might have a perspective that I don't know about. Have I thought about the steps it's going to take? Yes, I have this big dream or this big vision for the organization, but it might take 20 steps. It might take X amount of resources. It might take this type of process that might mean that this process is going to take 5 years instead of 2 years. So I want to think about those things. And again, I have to think about how is this essentially going to help the big picture, the big mission, the big goal that we have. So as you're moving in different aspects of leadership, maybe you're at the first tier and maybe it's just about managing the people. And then maybe you move it to the next tier and now it's like, okay, they're letting me create processes, but don't forget the people. And now you're at this top CEO level and you're thinking big picture, but you're missing out on thinking about, okay, I still need to think about the picture. I need to still think about the people. And I need to start thinking about the practical steps. And of course, create a team around you that can think of those things. And Make sure that you have other leaders that maybe you're connected with, or people that could be, your right hand men and women that can support you on this thinking. But you want to think about things big picture, because one decision can affect so many different aspects, and you want to make sure that when you are going forward with anything, you have to consider the people, you have to consider the steps, how long it's going to take, the energy, the resources, because if it's going to take a lot, then that affects the people. And if it affects the people, then getting to that big picture might take a lot longer. So all those areas are going to be so important as a leader for you to progress and really start moving up in different spaces, because again, the need or what you're going to be doing might be different, but you never want to forget what you learned from a E4 or maybe an airman basic all the way to now you're a master sergeant or senior in chief, because all those steps that you've taken has now prepared you for this rank or from this for this level of leadership. But you want to always go back and make sure you're considering all those when you're making those decisions. So yes, as you're getting to those top tiers, remember, you think the big picture, but you want to essentially make sure that you're thinking about the people. How is this decision going to affect the people, all the shareholders and the stakeholders? The process, what is it going to take for me to get to this vision here? It might take these resources, it might take this much time, but at least you know what it takes for you to get there. And then the last step is the vision, right? You want to know the vision. So if you create a vision, you want to make sure that you're considering all these things before you get there. So people, process, vision, the PPV process. All right. So let's do a recap. So leadership lessons from every rank, and I hope that was beneficial for you guys. So let's go over what we talked about. So we talked about, first, leaders are also mentors. There are going to be some skills and things that you have to learn as a leader in order for you to be effective. But mentorship is one of them. Learning how to develop people, have that communication with them, really make sure you're engaged with them, because if you do see that person that's not engaged, you see that person that's acting up, you want to find out the why and maybe mentor them through that process because you've been there before, or direct them to someone that can support them. So remember, leaders are also mentors. We have the power to develop and help people grow and get to the next level. The next area is that you are in control of your life and your career. Remember that you are in control. We love to be in spaces and have everything mapped out for us. But with all the tools and resources we have available to us with social media, with, Googling something or walking next door or asking that question or posting it somewhere, we have so much control now that you can control your life and your career. So seek the information, seek and you will find, right? Knock on those doors and it'll open, but you have to get up and go do it. So although you might find yourself in a space hoping that things will be laid out for you, know that you are in control of your life and career. And if you are a leader out there, really start considering how you can map out processes and things for individuals. Again, download my employee development checklist on my website, aishathomas.org, and it has a checklist of things that you can start looking at to help people develop, and how you can know that you're developing your team members effectively so they have somewhat of a plan, because some people might be new to this. And by you taking time and helping them create a development plan, this can really help them, point them in the right direction. It can help with motivation, and then it can help with retention, because if we can retain individuals, now they can support the mission. If we retain them, that's going to help them continue to develop and grow. So remember, even if you don't get that and you're a leader, even if you don't get that and you're a team member, remember, you have control of your life and career. The next area is leadership is uncomfortable, but uncomfortability means growth. There's going to be some seasons and some spaces where you're going to have to develop some areas that might be blind spots. Maybe you lack communication. Maybe you don't like having uncomfortable conversations. Maybe you are an introvert and now you have to work on your engagement, and that's something that you lack. But again, you can get the tools, you can get the support, the coaching, the mentorship, all the things that you need for you to grow in that area. And it's going to be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable interacting with people, even still to today, but I'm a lot better than I was before. And I know if my team needs it, it's going to benefit our connectivity. So it's uncomfortable, but uncomfortability means growth. Lead for your team. That's going to be important. If you're going to have a team that you're leading, make sure that you get in time to get to know the heart. Studies have shown that we as leaders need to start becoming more innovative and realize that leadership looks a lot differently. So people are now looking for you to care. They're looking for purpose in their roles. So when we're leading for our team, are you taking time to get to know them? Are you identifying what they need to develop? Are you getting to know, like specifically for them, are you customizing how you interact with them? Because everybody speaks a different interaction language. I did a YouTube video. I'm doing a series on YouTube called the Employee Retention Series, and I had speaking your team members' appreciation language. And I talked about how you can use the 5 love languages to also communicate with your team members and giving you a perspective of how to customize your interactions with them. Well, that's the same thing with leading your team. Are you taking time to really get to know them, to know how to motivate this person, how to connect this person, how to allow them to work as a collective to get the best product out, to get the best cohesiveness within that team? So remember, we're not just leading for ourselves or our organizations, we need to lead for the teams also. And the last area is to lead considering the big picture, the people, the process, and the vision. Every decision that you make is going to affect all these areas. So you want to make sure that PPV process is effective. If I know I have this big vision, what is it going to take to get there? Resources, tools, manpower. And also, how is it going to affect the people? Am I going to have more expectations of work hours for them? Is this going to make their workload more? If so, is this going to affect other aspects of their life? And if so, it's going to reduce productivity. And now the vision that I have to complete this in 2 years is going to take 5 years. So remember, when you're thinking about big picture, don't forget the people, assessing their needs. Don't forget the process, how that affects the people in order for you to get to that big vision. So I hope that information helped. I'm just so grateful and thankful for serving. Like I said, being in for 17 years, I just never expected. There's just so many things I just didn't expect. Again, when I reflect on my life and where I started. And that's why I tell a lot of young people, don't allow statistics to define you. Don't allow the experiences that you've been through to define you, because you can control what your future looks like. So to look at from going to someone that was almost kicked out of the military to now getting to here is a blessing. I'm someone that's really big on faith. So I thank God for everything, for all the people he put into my place. Even today on my post, you had so many people on there that gave me shout outs, but I had to give them their flowers, because if it wasn't for them, they didn't know that God was strategically placing them in my life as well for me to see another aspect of leadership. If you guys want to reach out to me, again, I'm Aisha Thomas. My website is aishathomas.org. You can email me if you have any questions, concerns. Maybe you want coaching. Maybe you need guidance. I'm at info@aishathomas.org. Reach out to me at Miss Aisha Speaks on all platforms but YouTube. And let me give you one quick tip. If you're a business leader out there and you want to start a business, make sure all of your platforms have the same name. I wish I knew this early on, but that is the only platform that I'm not able to change my name to my new brand, but it's all right. Hit me up and watch my employee retention series, my leadership development series. I started something else called the Senior NCO Perspective to talk about the lessons I learned, as I'm doing tonight, in leadership in the military that helps and supports people, leaders from all around in different industries and so on. So check that out. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this to anybody that needs this information. But I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will catch you guys next time.